calls are recorded for quality. Would I have the pleasure of speaking with today?
Yeah, my name is Solandra.
Hi, good day. It is a pleasure to speak to Solandra.
Thank you.
I do understand that you have interest in dental coverage, right?
Yeah, man. If you could see this smile of mine, you'd be like, yes, you do.
Okay.
Star Wars has started putting out books. They've released like a YA book, a full-fledged novel, and a audio drama. They just released a new one, right? And so what happened last time is they showed us all these new people that, are like 250 years before Rey. And like I said, Yoda's running around doing his thing. He's just known as like a really good teacher of like young students and kind of being eccentric. So you meet all these people and they go on fun adventures and they introduce these new bad guys. And it's funny too because they keep introducing bad guys who are specifically designed to be the perfect type of enemy to be cut by lightsabers. Like first they made one that was like, they're basically plants. Like if your little kid is out there like beating bushes with your lightsaber in a couple years, they're going to be like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm fighting Drengar. The plant monsters. It's really the perfect villain. Things you don't mind seeing get cut with lightsabers. And then they invented these kind of scary bat monsters that are basically like living rock. And when you cut them, instead of like blood, rock spills out like onyx. So it makes like two things where you're like, oh, I guess that's not blood. So they did this. They introduced this to a bunch of fun people. They do that for a whole year. And then instead of continuing the story, they did what Star Wars movies did, and they started giving themselves prequels. They go back another 100 years. And this is the earliest we've ever seen in Star Wars world, right? And it's all taking place on Jeddah, which is that place that we see in Rogue One. Remember, there's all these giant statues that are on the ground, and it used to be a place that people cared about, like the Force. So that was interesting. You're like, oh, it's that statue from Rogue One. It just fell. They're making a big deal about it. Oh, that's interesting. All right, so we're 300 years before all the Skywalker nonsense, and we meet the two heirs of these different planets, right? You got Ziri Albaran, and that's from Enra, and then you have Fontu Zen, and that's from Aram, right? So Enra and Aram, they hate each other, but these two are our Romeo and Juliet, and we follow them as they fall in love, and it's awesome. And then, even though terrorists try to bomb the wedding, they kiss as explosions are happening. And it's a very sweet story. You're like, oh, look, love won. And then we go to this other little, young adult adventure. And we meet this new Jedi who doesn't use a lightsaber. She uses a shield. And she uses it in really creative, fun ways. She's a badass Jedi. So Solandra Show is her name, right? So we meet her. She goes on a fun adventure. We kind of see the industrial military complex that has been built up around this war from her point of view. Her friends and her Padawans save these people who are trapped on this planet and unveil a conspiracy that then goes into the final part, the audio drama, whereas both of these people are signing the peace treaty. The official peace treaty is happening on Jeddah. At the same time, this religious sect that hates the Jedi have been planning this big thing for a long time because they basically accuse the Jedi of not respecting the butterfly effect. They're like, every single time you save someone with your force powers, you don't realize it, but somewhere on Jakku, someone falls dead. And they're like, do you have any evidence of this? And they're like, no, we don't. But, kiss our ass. That's what we believe. And there's a pretty good debate between Jedi and this one lady. And it's great. They show them kind of like the religious sect leader just taking advantage of chaos. What's happening is the peace talks are happening, and they're about to be officially at peace, these two planets, because their monarchs have married, and this is the peace signing and treatment, and someone else is going to bomb it. But that little plot, can be like dealt with, but it's just ruined by this religious fanatics who put like a new twist on it and take advantage of this kind of poorly planned bombing that make it a much bigger deal. And all hell on loose like breaks free on Jeddah, and there's all these different types of Force users there. Not just like it's a place where everyone goes, the mecca of Force user people, and lots of people believe in different ways of using the Force. And it shows like the Jedi lose, the peace talks fall apart, our heroes get like small victories at the end, but everything fell apart, and it was just like a really kind of adult look at war. Like it was really well put together. First they're like, hey, look, here's a sweetheart Star Wars story. You could say the same thing about it that you could say about The Princess Bride. Like there's torture, fighting, love, escapes, chases. Just go on. And, like all the best things are in this. It's a really fun adventure. And then you show like there's more to it. And it's also interesting because they use the most adult book to tell the most kid story. And then they use the young adult reader thing to like apply nuance to this. Like it's not as clear cut as that last story led you to believe. There's actually, a whole other planet of people that really want this war to continue and here's the other interested parties in the universe who are, who know that this peace will fuck up other plans they have. So like they're trying to show, that the people who didn't want this to happen, and then the final one to show how it all fell apart. And how, like, life is messy. I was so mad. That's how I know it was good, because I was, like, reading the end here. And they're, like, ruining these people's, like, I can just think of all these heroes who I followed. And how, like, the Romeo and the Juliet of this world, they desperately want everyone to be together. And then they are. Just them kissing and falling in love didn't end decades of hate between their people. There was no fairy tale to fix a Star War.
Yeah, well, even Bye-bye.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Can you say it again?
I think you are not qualified.